We're here today with Jonny Horsfield, founder of H2 and world-renowned exterior and interior designer. He will tell us a little bit more about Project Zephyr today. H2 has no house style, and you've been very deliberate about that. But for most designers, a recognizable signature is everything. What made you choose the opposite?
Our house style is that we don't have a house style. It comes from the fact that I don't really want to just copy and paste and do the same thing time and time again. I quite enjoy the challenge of doing something a little different each time. And I think clients come to us for that reason, because maybe they don't see what they like exactly, and they could go to that other designer who has that house style. So instead they come to us, and it's more of a challenge for us to try and find out exactly what it is they really want. We start with one style. We may end up with something completely different as we work with them. And the clients hopefully end up with what they really want rather than what they think they want. So yeah, that's a short answer to it.
Interesting, very interesting. And obviously talking about projects, when Zephyr began, what was the first conversation? You said that some clients come to you with knowing what they want, some don't. Obviously Zephyr being a project is quite different, but how did the conversation begin for you?
It was an internal conversation, obviously, because there was no client. We just finished a yacht called Arrow, which is a 75-meter from Fedship. I was kind of like thinking, well, what would be the next Arrow Plus kind of thing? And I kind of wanted to take Arrow and develop her into something much larger, over 100 meters. So that was the kind of thinking behind it. It's a natural progression for a client who has a 75. If I could develop that yacht into something a little bit larger.
So the image that sparked Zephyr could be, we can say that was Arrow. It was a bit of a mood board.
Well, and actually come back to your first question about house style. Obviously, we do have a house style, if I'm honest. We don't shout about it. And I think if we have a house style, it's more on the exteriors, if anything, because we have quite distinctive exteriors that we've done over the years. And Arrow is one of them. And obviously, I wanted to try and develop Arrow aesthetically into something a little larger. So yeah, I guess you could accuse me of having a house style when it comes to Zephyr.
Well, we could. You're talking obviously now about LOAs and how different it is from a 75 to something over 100. Zephyr sits at 116 meters. Does scale change the way that you design projects or yachts that have been commissioned? And is working at this size fundamentally different creatively?
A little bit of both. I mean, scale's really important. I mean, the first thing you got to remember is that humans are the same size, whether they're on a 20 meter or 120 meter. And so you can't just scale it up and up and up, because you'd end up with spaces that were just not particularly intimate or useful for human beings. So you've only got 12 guests. You don't have a dining table that seats 24. It's like, would that be pointless? So it's kind of a balance between the two. And I think you're scaling it up in the right places. And I think you'll find with the larger yachts, it's more about deck spaces. There's only so much interior space you really need. Most clients are focusing a lot more on exteriors now, and so you'll find that on a yacht like this, where we really went to town was really on the exterior deck spaces. Coming back to more technically, within exterior design, you could just scale up Arrow, but everything just gets really, really kind of out of scale. So the bulwarks or everything gets too big. So you obviously have to control that scale. You can't just stick it on a computer and scale it up.
Of course. So it does change creatively as well, I assume.
One of the opportunities you try and have with scaling it up was to try and its proportions. You've got a lot more length to play with. And I think, I like an elegant boat. I've really tried hard to make her as elegant as possible. So she's not like a tower block, of accommodation. The idea was to keep her as compact, as elegant and as compact as possible.
We talked about the exterior design. You've designed the concept interior as well on Zephyr, but the final interior is open to the buyer to bring their own designer, should they wish to do so. How do you create such a coherent spatial vision while leaving this kind of openness and that room for someone else to come in that could, come with a completely different design than yours?
Well, I mean, I could make it as difficult as possible for whoever comes in as possible. But no, obviously we do interior design and exterior design. So it's in my DNA. It's great to be able to do both. At this stage, you're thinking about the exterior and the interior layout together, and working obviously also with the shipyard, with Doris, with the technical package. I hope that I've left a GA that any good designer could come in and work on that, because I think the spaces work. Because as an interior designer myself, I've made the spaces that I could do if I wanted to do it. So there's nothing crazy in there that I think would make it very hard for someone to take over. I know how to design the interior of a super yacht, and I think that's reflected in the GA, I hope.
Obviously, we're talking about a project and you're designing for an owner that doesn't exist yet. What does that freedom feel like creatively for you, and what do you find yourself missing when you start a project like this?
I think most people would go, wow, this is great freedom, do what you want, but that's always actually really hard. Everyone needs limits. Equally, I'm also thinking about all the owners at the same time. So, the idea was not to customize it too much to one particular person. That's for the guy who buys it, who can then tweak it to what he really, really wants. It's a kind of double-edged sword. I think having that freedom is great in some ways, but it's actually nice to have work with a client. You're actually answering someone's real brief, and I think that's more satisfying than answering an imaginary brief, if I'm honest. So yeah, bring on the client.
Talking about clients, what can someone commissioning a yacht like Zephyr can get that a buyer of a comparable ready-built vessel cannot get?
It's basically the ability to have a fully custom yacht to their design and to their lifestyle, the way they want to use the yacht. So it's not compromised, hopefully. But it depends on your experience as a yachtsman as well. I mean, if you're on your 5th yacht, you kind of know how you're going to live, and you've got real particular, ideas of what you really want. Like the gym might be really important to you, and by the time you've had 3 or 4 or 5 yachts, you've worked that out, and it's like you have the confidence to go, you know what, I want this primary piece of real estate on my yacht to be a gym. Whereas clients, maybe their first yacht, they're maybe, well, what's the market norm or whatever. So it gives you that freedom to be able to sort of customize it and do something a little bit unusual, which you wouldn't be able to do if you just bought another yacht.
In terms of buyers, what do you wish more buyers understood about what a yacht designer actually does, and also what a designer doesn't do?
Well, I mean, everyone knows it's all about fluffy cushions. Obviously, it's. I'd like to think that it's a lot harder job than maybe people think. But we're part of a team equally. So we're like the creative drive of the whole project. So we're kind of pulling everybody along. We're pushing the engineers. We're pushing the shipyard. We're hopefully inspiring the owner to do something amazing and to get an amazing yacht. What people don't realize is actually how kind of technical it is as well. It's not, we can, if you design an interior, you go, wow, that's a pretty picture, but that picture has to be translated into information that a shipyard can build. And that's drawings, it's details, it's carpentry, it's all that kind of side of things that people don't really appreciate. I don't just hand over a rendering to someone and they go and build it. We have to give them that information, down to how many millimeters is that recess? How many centimeters is that cornice? We have to specify every single detail. So, the fun bit is doing the fluffy cushions, and then it gets
and all the
technical.
rest.
Yeah, it's quite hard, and we're still doing it. Like, the thing is, what you forget is the project lasts 3, maybe 4, 5 years sometimes, and it's a long old, it can become a long slog really, to kind of get the yacht finished.
Talking about Zephyr, is there one decision that you are particularly proud of? Something that the answer wasn't really obvious at the start?
It was the scaling up of the yacht, and I think having the sort of self-control almost not to overscale the interior. I wanted to design the most beautiful, elegant yacht I could, and when you do go to that kind of length of boat, it's like the ability to be able to put on a superstructure that fits the hull properly, and there's not too large. I think is a really nice thing to be able to do. And again, it comes down to the deck spaces. I really wanted to focus more on on the kind of the exterior of the yacht as well, and that's what going to something larger like that gives you, that ability. And I think that was not something I'd thought about at the time. It just kind of evolved, and then I realized actually that it was working really well. So yeah, that's probably what I'm most proud of.
Okay, good. One last question, but I think very important, obviously, considering the project. What made Doris the ideal partner for Zephyr, and how did this collaboration start?
It's a good question. I mean, I've known Doris a long time, and history can kind of burden you a little bit. Like some shipyards have so much history. They struggle to kind of evolve and then take on fresh ideas, fresh approaches, and new ways of doing things. And I think with a shipyard like Doris, we have the kind of freedom and the ability to actually develop and design a yacht that's really kind of not hindered by shipyards kind of, I don't know, like I say, history of like, oh, we can't do it that way, or we don't do it that way, we always do it this way, and it's the cheaper way, or whatever. There's a lot of other reasons for, the way a yacht evolves. But with Doris, they're very much like a clean sheet of paper. Let's let's do the best boat we can. And I think technically the GA, when you look at the GA, they've really developed quite an interesting GA where they've tried to utilize some of the best technology, and we've worked together to kind of release the space for the guests in the right places. And I think that's, you know, really important as well.
Another question.
Another question. Well,
Yes, I've got another question for you. This is off the
I bet
book.
we've done 10. I'm sure that was it.
It was it, but I got another one. Let's see how it comes out. Obviously, you're talking also about technicalities and how specific things get when you get into the technical side of things, and obviously how that also impacts the design. Zephyr uses diesel electric propulsion and ABB Azipod thrusters. How much do those engineering choices influence what's possible aesthetically and on a design level? And does propulsion tech shape the form?
I wouldn't say it shapes the form. I mean, yes, it can have an influence on it. I think for Zephyr, it's more about the benefits for the owner from when it comes to noise and vibration and fuel efficiency, things like that, rather than a wacky layout or some kind of crazy kind of thing. But it does give you that flexibility potentially to kind of move things around a little bit technically. I think there's certainly for us, the beach club is a kind of unhindered space, a large beach club, which is, you know, thanks to that diesel electric installation really helps. For other projects, yes, potentially it could do, but I think with Zephyr, it's a kind of a happy compromise. Yeah.
You managed quite well.
You did. That question was on there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But anyway, no, this was great. I think there's a lot of insight in obviously having a conversation with the designer himself. It's a great project. We all very much believe in it. So.
Oh, good. Thank you very much for having me. It's been fun.
Pleasure.
Cut!